Welcome to the Instagram Stories for Monday, November 10th. I'm your host, Daniel Hill. Today on the show, we're going to review the recent questions the head of Instagram, Adam Mosseri, answered on his Ask Me Anything. He answered questions like, can I schedule broadcast channel messages? Can I translate DMs? Does posting on the iPad app help get more reach? Are hashtags still a thing? And would you ever consider allowing videos longer than 3 minutes to be suggested by the algorithm? All of these questions and more we're going to get into on today's episode, but first, here's a quick word from our sponsors. Welcome back. Let's dive into the questions from the head of Instagram, and we're going to start with all of the questions that have to do with translation. Let's start with one about Reels translation. How does it work when you translate Reels into other languages? If you're not familiar, Instagram now supports translating of Reels into 4 languages. Here's Adam to explain.
So when you make a reel, there's usually a video, it could be you speaking like this, and you might add things like text or stickers on top. We actually separate those out into layers. Think Photoshop, if you're old enough to have used Photoshop. That way we can translate the video without making any mistakes or changing the text or the stickers on top, and then reassemble it for the user. So in general, for Reels, but also for Stories, we look to separate the different pieces of the content into different layers so that we can do things like help people translate content to reach more people across language barriers.
It's good that he explained how that worked. I actually didn't realize that the text that you write on top of the video also gets translated as well, but that would make sense. Let's go on to the next question. Can I translate DM messages? Interestingly, the answer is yes, but how to do it is not obvious.
You can actually. You do so on the receiver side. So if you get a DM in a language you do not speak, you can long press that message and you'll have the option to translate it. I use this often because I get a lot of messages from people all around the world and they don't all speak English. And so it helps me sometimes understand what's happening and allows me to respond.
So tap and hold. All right, let's go on to all the reach questions. The first one. Any plans for longer format videos over 3 minutes to get reach to new followers? To be clear, Instagram recommends Reels up to 90 seconds. You can post longer videos than that, but here's Adam explaining the idea of why they do that.
Not right now, no. Generally speaking, I think that connecting with your friends and short form video can be in the same app and really help each other out. And short form and long form video can be in the same app and help each other out. But it's hard to connect people to friends with long-form video. Never say never. I think that we'll probably have to think about what we want to do in that space over time, but at the moment we are very focused on short form when it comes to video, not long form.
Okay, I get why that's the focus, but I personally have watched some very long stories where the person has to say, look for part 2 soon, and then you have to scroll to try to figure out where is part 2. And they're doing that to keep the video under a certain length, but there's no way to group the videos together. It's a very frustrating experience. I get that they're going for the short, quick hits of dopamine that you get from watching a funny video that you immediately want to share that's maybe 15 or 20 seconds long. I get that, but I think there is a place for longer videos, especially when people are telling very long stories that keep your attention. Okay, let's move on to another algorithm question for reach. Are hashtags still a thing? Do they favor the algorithm? I really don't think it's worth using hashtags in 2025. When was the last time you searched for something using a hashtag? Exactly.
Hashtags still exist. They do not meaningfully help your reach. People try to use them as a growth hack, but it's not particularly effective. Use them to the degree you think they help you tell your story. If you want to make sure you're connecting to other content in some way that also uses that hashtag. But if you're looking for ways to just drive meaningfully more reach, hashtags are going to disappoint you.
Okay, let's go on to the next question. Does posting on the iPad app help my reach? I don't understand why this person would think that. They do tend to reward when you use new features of Instagram, but the iPad app is not in that category.
Your reach won't be affected actually at all based on whether or not you post from iPad or your phone. I think you should post from where you want to post, and we should try to connect as many people who are interested in that post to that post as quickly as possible. And that should be true regardless of whether or not you post from a tablet or a phone.
Okay, let's move on to the next question, which has to do with aggregator accounts. Sometimes you see an account that has tons of great content that they are reposting from other people. This is not content they've made, but rather they're sharing, perhaps legally, perhaps illegally, content that others have made and they're benefiting from it. So the question, why are you not recommending memes anymore? Adam gives a good explanation of exactly how Instagram is treating those pieces of content from aggregator accounts.
So I want to explain and apologize for the confusion. We try not to recommend content from aggregators. So that means we try not to show people content from accounts they do not follow, from accounts that are not actually making that content. Instead, we try to recommend content from the original content creator. Sometimes, when we try to identify original content creators, we make mistakes and miss a meme account specifically. So that was happening today. We've rolled back the change. We're trying to make sure we understand what was going on so we can fix it. But in general, if you want to post someone else's content, use repost or remix it in some way to make it your own, because otherwise we're going to be looking to instead drive distribution or reach to the original content creator, not to you for finding and copying that person's content. But we definitely, we're making some mistakes today on that implementation. We're going to fix and we apologize.
I think that's a great explanation. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the remix feature on Instagram and some feature suggestions that Adam gets. Stick around. Welcome back. We're continuing with the questions and answers from the head of Instagram, and the next one has to do with remix. What is a remix on Instagram? I'm confused. Remixing is taking someone else's content and adding your own spin and creativity on top of it. Here's Adam's explanation.
Remix allows you to make your own version of a reel as a starting point. So when you see a reel, if you click the three dots, you'll see a remix option at the top, and then you can use that reel as the base to make your own reel. You can add your own stickers, change the music, splice it up, add other clips, essentially riff on someone else's content and make it your own. And by the way, to the question earlier about aggregators, that will be considered original content as opposed to aggregated content.
His explanation was better, but mine was more succinct. The next question, have you ever thought about keywords or topics you can type in to remove from your algorithm? So interestingly, this exists already. There's hidden words, which hides all kinds of words that you specifically choose from comments and DMs, but there's also a setting for words that will not be in content that Instagram recommends to you. Here's Adam's explanation of how this feature works.
A version of this exists. If you go to your profile settings, content settings, you will see an option called specific words and phrases. And if you add specific words and phrases there, we will no longer recommend content, so show you content from accounts you do not follow that are using those specific words or phrases. So basically, it's hidden words, but instead of for DMs or for comments, for recommendations across Instagram. So check it out. Hopefully it helps.
One thing I want to point out, this is only in content that Instagram recommends to you. So for instance, in my case, I put Halloween in this list, and I saw tons of people who I follow posting what their Halloween costumes were. So it doesn't affect people who you follow, rather just content that Instagram recommends to you. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Would Instagram ever consider making stories shareable for broader reach? So what they mean is you create a story and your friends can share it to their story. So reposting stories. Here's his answer.
So we're talking about should we make it so that you can share a story to stories. I think reshares can be really helpful, or reposts, but they also can easily take over an app. So we're just trying to be judicious. So we'll explore it.
I personally do not want that at all. Okay, the next question. Can I schedule broadcast channel messages? Broadcast channels, if you are not familiar, are like a direct message inbox where people can choose to subscribe, similar to what you might have with an email list. The answer about scheduling broadcast channel messages is no. Here's Adam to explain.
There is no way to schedule a broadcast channel message. That is an interesting idea. The hope for channels is that they're pretty lightweight and quick, so a little bit less for scheduled type content, but it's definitely worth considering, so I'll talk to the team about it.
Okay, that is it for the questions and answers from the head of Instagram. As always, thank you for listening, and come back next time for more social media news, strategy, and other things you need to know.
Let's get it. The year was 2013. You posted your first pic and you're glad you posted seen. Your friends liked it too, but what you didn't know is what posting on that platform would do. Taking all your time and attention, doom scrolling. Also, let me mention, you gotta post on every platform, putting content on every set just to conform. Likes gave you validation and you got hooked. Now engagement is down, you feeling overlooked. Hey, keep coming back for more podcasts. And find me on Instagram at Daniel Hill Media. I'm gone.